Guys, what is going on? We are live. This is my long-awaited promise follow-up Q&A video number 4 here on this channel. Going to be answering your questions that you left for me in my Q&A video. So I appreciate all 16 of you that left your great questions. I look forward to them. And pretty much how this goes. You leave the questions, I'll provide the answers. So without further ado, let's not waste any time, guys. This is my live Q&A follow-up video. So if you happen to be watching in the live chat or afterwards, thanks for watching. So without further ado, let's get into some questions and answers. This is always fun. We will start from the bottom and we will work our way to the top. Question from Devontae Strouder. Do you think Raw is shit? This week? Yeah, actually, I thought this week it was pretty bad. It's been better the last 4 weeks, but once again, they're hampered by that third hour. That third hour continues to bring them down. The laziness in how they put together these shows. I mean, it just goes. I continue to reiterate the fact. You watch SmackDown this week, completely difference. 180 difference in terms of quality compared to Raw. Raw this week just felt thrown together. You had these random short matches. It didn't feel like a go-home show, honestly, to me. And I think until they get their act together or until they ever finally realize that dropping that third hour would, benefit them tremendously, along with better quality in writing and character direction and storytelling, likewise, Raw it's going to be dead. I mean, we'll get good episodes here and there, but what really hurts Raw is their lack thereof of consistency. So I hope I answered your question to the best of my ability. Let's move on to your next question. Would you have Tye Dillinger debut on SmackDown after WrestleMania 33? Why or why not? Very good question. Thank you for asking me that. I would have the perfect 10 debut on SmackDown after WrestleMania. I think it would be the right time for him to make his debut. He could finish out his business, whatever he has lined up for NXT TakeOver Orlando. I think Tye would make a great fit. I think a perfect feud to introduce him would be to go up against the heel Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler versus Tye Dillinger. That could be a good feud and a good way to introduce him. I think SmackDown would be the right fit for him. I feel if you put him on Raw, he would obviously get lost in the shuffle, guys. But Tye Dillinger on SmackDown? Hell yeah, I'd love to see that. I also think we could possibly see Nakamura on SmackDown. Asuka would be a great addition to SmackDown. And let's put the Revival on SmackDown while we're at it. Let's put all that great talent on SmackDown because you know what happens if they go to Monday Night Raw. It's a good question right there. Next question here from James Lawrence. We got 2 from him. Would you like to see the Shield reunite in 2017? I'd love to see a Shield reunion. What do I think? Do I see it happening in 2017? No. I mean, we have the brand split. Obviously, Rollins and Reigns are on Raw, and Ambrose is on SmackDown. Now, we could have a draft where they all end up on the same show, but I just don't see that happening. I think one day we will see a Shield reunion, but I think we'll be a couple years away from that. I'd love to see it, don't get me wrong. I love the Shield. They were one of my favorite factions to watch, but I just don't see that happening in 2017. James also asks, how do you feel when Sasha and Charlotte kept flip-flopping the Raw Women's title? When they kept doing hot potato, it just lessened, the title reigns. I mean, it was just like Sasha won. When she won it that first time off Charlotte, that felt like a big deal. Okay, then she lost it back to Charlotte at SummerSlam. All right. Then she won it back on Raw. Then she lost it at Hell in a Cell. Then she won it back on Raw. Then she lost it at Roadblock, back and forth, back and forth. It gets old after a while. I mean, it just lessens the title reign, lessens the credibility for the title itself. I mean, it's just hot potato. It's like a long-term reign from Sasha would have been nice, but they had to keep Charlotte's pay-per-view streak going. Once that pay-per-view streak ends, I think it will benefit the Raw Women's division as a whole. You won't be tied down, anchored. I mean, the same thing's going to happen. Bayley won the title 2 weeks ago, and now she's going to drop it to Charlotte, which I thought was a mistake. I thought you should have saved Bayley's championship win, her first major win for a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam. You build to that big moment instead of just – we'll see what they do at Fastlane. I mean, it could be used as the impetus for Sasha Banks turning heel, but we'll leave that for that. But, yeah, I think the hot potato aspect has hurt the Raw Women's division. And he also asks, do you think there is a women's revolution on Monday Night Raw? No, actually, I think SmackDown Live has the stronger of the women's divisions. I just feel SmackDown they have more talent. You don't see the same, faces wrestling each other each and every time. We have different storylines. I mean, look at last week's episode. You had a Falls Count Anywhere match between Natalya and Nikki. I thought that was good. You had Naomi, who won the women's title. She unfortunately had to give it up, but that led to Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch fighting over it. You have the stuff going on with Carmella and James Ellsworth. The women are used in multiple different roles. It's not just the same faces over and over again. And it just feels like all of the women are given an opportunity to succeed on SmackDown, whereas you go to Raw, and it's the same 4 women: Sasha, Nia Jax, Bayley, what have you, Charlotte, of course, Emma. Where's Emma been? Summer Rae, I know she's been dealing with injuries, but it would be nice to see her get back into the mix. If Paige ever comes back, summertime, hopefully, you could throw her back into the mix. I just prefer the SmackDown women's division compared to the Raw women's division. So thank you for asking the question. This is from Remember the Time 1992, or 92, I should say. It's several questions here. His first question is, who would you have drafted for Raw and SmackDown for this year's lottery draft? That's an interesting question. I'm pretty happy with the way that the rosters are. It's SmackDown, I feel, are killing it with the smaller roster. Raw, I feel, has good talent. It's just they haven't. It's just the creative. It's just been the way the show's been written has done them no favors. So I'm fairly happy with the way that the rosters split happened, the brand split, excuse me. So I really wouldn't change too much when it comes to that. He also asked, how would you have booked this year's SummerSlam? Well, looking back on it, this year's SummerSlam, how I would have booked it, I would have definitely made sure it was a much shorter show. 4 hours is plenty. You don't need a extra 2-hour pre-show. You clearly burned the crowd out. But seeing as how AJ Styles and John Cena had the best match of the night, I would have honestly put that match on last. I mean, you crescendo, you build to, the best match. You don't, I feel like after that, the crowd was really exhausted, obviously from it being a long show. But I would have had Cena Styles headline, and that would have been a great way for them to go off the air. I wouldn't have done that angle with Roman Reigns and Rusev. That was still stupid. You should have done that on Raw, not giving away the match on Raw. That was just ass backward. They did that whole thing completely backwards. Balor and Rollins, that was good. I would have changed, obviously, the spot where Balor got hurt, so that could have avoided him going down with an injury, but I wouldn't have changed anything there. Ambrose and Ziggler, that match, I wouldn't have done it. Looking back on it now, Ambrose is champion at the time. It's a tough call. It's a tough call who you could have put. You could have put Bray Wyatt in that situation, but I like where Bray is at now. I like the way that they built him up. I don't know who could have challenged Dean Ambrose for that championship. It's tough because AJ Styles was with Cena, so that locked them up. Orton was with Lesnar. I wouldn't have changed Orton versus Lesnar. I just would have had the match. I would have changed that finish. That finish, I was not a fan of the TKO. The blood was great, but just have the match continue to go on. I felt like the match was just getting going, and then it just abruptly ended. You could have drawn out Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn maybe, and had that be like maybe a loser leaves Raw match. So there were a couple changes, as you can see, that I would make to the SummerSlam card. Because overall, I thought going into SummerSlam, my expectations were much higher, and I just didn't feel like the show delivered like it should have. But thank you for asking me that questions. If you have 3 wishes, what would your wishes be? Oh, that's a good question. Well, 1, I wish I had perfect vision because I hate wearing contacts and glasses. That would be great. 2, I wish that Raw would go back to 2 hours. And my 3rd wish would be for world peace. Wouldn't it be great if we all just got along? That would just be tremendous. So those would be my 3 wishes. He also asks, what other sports are you interested in besides hockey and wrestling? None. I mean, I'll watch baseball here and there. That's pretty much it. I love my Pittsburgh Penguins, my Chicago Blackhawks. I love my wrestling. That's enough for me to watch. So it's a good challenge trying to keep up with 2 hockey clubs and the amount of content the WWE puts out on a week-in, week-out basis. So that's plenty of enough for me. He also asks, if I was Vincent K. McMahon himself, what would be the biggest change you would make? The biggest change, the number 1 change you would make be to make WWE good again. Ditch the scripts and let these guys go out there, sink or float. Just have a more open, free environment where the flow of ideas can transpire, and really trust your talent to go out there and cut a promo on their own and put influences, not creative control I'm advocating for, but, just a more open environment to ideas. And this is where I think my character should go. Okay, why should you do that? That makes sense. Let's go in that direction instead of being so close-minded, narrow, stubborn, stuck in his ways. Because that's the biggest problem with Vince now. These scripted promos, everything's micromanaged to a T. It doesn't have to be that way. Ditch the scripts. Allow these guys to go out there and just cut the promos from the heart. I think it would make for a much better show, flow, and just overall character and storyline developments. So that's what I would do. Thank you for the questions. We got 4 questions here from my good friend Mike. Mike, thank you for asking me these questions. Name one match stipulation you would like to see WWE bring back. I'd love to see 3 Stages of Hell brought back. It has been a long time since we've seen a 3 Stages of Hell match. So that's a match stipulation I'd like to see. John Cena has never held the Intercontinental Championship. Do you think it's too late for WWE to give him a run with it? Absolutely no. It's never too late. I would like to see John Cena go after that Intercontinental Championship. You talk about bringing prestige back to it. Similar to the way that John Cena brought prestige back to the championship, I think it would be a good story to tell. Of all the titles that Cena has won, that has been the one that he has yet to hold. So I think it would be a good story. How would you book this dream match? The Rock versus Bobby Roode. Man, boy, oh boy. Would that be a glorious feud or what? The way I'd have it is Rock's out there, he returns, he cuts a promo, Rock's laying a smackdown on your booty poo candy yesses, and Bobby Roode's music hits, and it's glorious, and he interrupts the Rock and says, Rock, you go on and on and on, running your own mouth about how you think you're the great one. You're not the great one. There's only one glorious one, and that leads to the build, the setup at WrestleMania, wherever you want to do it, SummerSlam. The great one versus the glorious one, Bobby Roode versus The Rock. The promo battles would be off the charts, epic, intense. It would be glorious indeed. Who can you see getting drafted from SmackDown to Raw in this year's upcoming draft? That's a very good question. I could see Dean Ambrose going to Raw. I could also see AJ Styles going to Raw, despite the fact that I think AJ should remain on SmackDown. I could see Roman Reigns going to SmackDown. Possibly Brock Lesnar going to SmackDown. I definitely see Charlotte or Sasha going to SmackDown, one of the two. And let's see. Yeah, those are just some of the big names I could see switching brands. So thank you for the question, Mike. We go to Cyberskull95. Thank you for the question. How would you book the return of the Shield? If they return with your booking, what changes would you make to their characters or the stable as a whole? Very interesting question. How would I book the return of the Shield? That's a tough one. Well, right now they are all baby faces, so that helps. Maybe you have this dominant, unstoppable Balor Club stable just ruling the roost on Raw. It's tough with the brand split. If it was we didn't have the brand split, it'd be a lot easier reuniting the Shield. But you could have a super faction group, the club, Balor Club, the Wreck and Shop, they're rolling havoc, and the only way to stop them is for Rollins, Reigns, and Ambrose to come back together as the Shield, to be the one group that has been dominant in the past. They've shown to be dominant in strength and in numbers, and they come back to fight off the Balor Club. And you do the Shield versus the Balor Club at a WrestleMania. Whoa, boy, would that be one hell of a great feud. So that's how I would see bringing the Shield back, as being the last option that, we unite together, we can take these guys down. Here's a question here from Ultra in the comments section. Thank you for watching the live chat. Here's a question. Do you think it's a good idea to draft Reigns to SmackDown? If they draft him to SmackDown and they turn him heel, and you link him up with the Usos, I see money right there. What do you think? A Samoan Dynasty stable? Heel Usos, heel Reigns? I think that would be tremendous. That's what I'd like to see. I really would. Here's five questions. Thank you, Robbie. Robbie One Kenobi, my good friend here. If John Cena wasn't booked in the mixed tag match, would you have liked to have seen him wrestle Ty Dillinger in Dillinger's main roster debut at WrestleMania 33? No. I don't know. I just Cena versus Ty at WrestleMania, that doesn't scream like a big time matchup. I would rather have seen Cena versus Taker, Cena versus Samoa Joe, or you save Cena versus Styles for WrestleMania instead of the Royal Rumble. That's just my opinion. If you could take one WWE women's wrestler from Raw, one from SmackDown Live, and one from NXT to a Pittsburgh Pens game with you, who would you take? Now, that's an interesting question. One from Raw, Bayley. Bayley's awesome. Love Bayley. Girl next door. One from SmackDown Live. It's tough. Becky. Becky's just amazing. And from NXT, Liv Morgan. Love Liv Morgan. She's gorgeous. 3, because of the rumors that New Day may have their own ice cream bar coming out in the future, would you like to see WWE bring back their famous ice cream bars? Hell yeah, I'd love to see WWE bring back their famous ice cream bars. It's ice cream. Who the hell doesn't love ice cream? CM Punk tried, although but maybe the New Day will get it done. I would love WWE ice cream bars. I'd eat one in an instant. If you were given one day to be an honorary certified G and hang out with Enzo and Cass, what would you do? Well, look what we got here, Cass. A couple haters. Just go clubbing. Have a fun night on the town. Get some drinks, some vodka, some rum, go drunk karaoke. It would just we'd have a fun time. How you doing? That'd be awesome to hang out with Enzo and Cass. It's a good question, Robbie. Thank you. If you could host an episode of Talking Smack with Renee Young and Daniel Bryan, which 3 guests would you book? AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, and one more. Bray Wyatt. Those would be the 3. Really good interviews right there. Thank you for the questions, Robbie. We move on to Connor. Connor, thank you for the questions. 1, do you feel the WWE draft should be an annual event for both Raw and SmackDown, or maybe something they do every few years? No, I think it should be a 1-year annual event, preferably, in July, seeing how they did the last one in July. It freshens up the rosters. It creates new feuds, because after a while it would get stale if you didn't do it for a couple years. So, yeah, I do feel that it should be a yearly event. Definitely do. Which superstars of the current NXT roster do you feel deserves to be called up next? As I said, Ty Dillinger, Asuka, Nakamura, Bobby Roode, and the Revival. Those I feel should be the next batch of call-ups from NXT. Which current NXT star do you feel deserves a reign with the WWE Universal WWE World title next? Current NXT star. If I only had to pick one, it's tough. But how can you not go with Shinsuke Nakamura? The man is ready. He was ready the moment he stepped into NXT. So thank you for that question, Connor. Finally, who do you consider right now in WWE to be the next John Cena after Cena retires? Well, they want you to think it's Roman Reigns, but I don't see that. I see a lot of potential in Braun Strowman. I keep going back to the fact there is something about Braun Strowman. He has the presence. He had a damn good match against the Big Show. I like the way that they have built him ever since the draft. If you continue to build him that way, you never know. I'm going with Braun Strowman. He has a great look. He continues to impress me more and more in the ring. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Braun Strowman. So, thank you for the question. 3 questions here from my good friend NC, Nerd Coalition. Nerd, thank you for the questions. Most WWE fans love SmackDown Live over Raw since the draft happened back in July. However, Vince McMahon is still in charge of both shows and the rest of the company, besides NXT. Why do you think we love SmackDown more and not Raw, even if you take out the 3-hour problem? Keep in mind Vince's final say on both shows. I keep going to the fact that SmackDown has been it's just been consistently good. I have not given SmackDown a grade below a C. I don't think I've given it a D once since the draft. Raw, I've given it a bunch of Ds. It's just, no, you're not late. Thank you for joining us, Cyberskull. But as I was saying, SmackDown, in live chat, why do you guys prefer SmackDown Live over Raw? I mean, it's not the fact that, I think Raw has great talent too. It's nothing wrong with the talent. I mean, the talent's there. It's just Raw, the way the show, perfect example this past week, the way that show was written, it was written to me in the laziest possible way. I mean, they couldn't have possibly thought that was a great go-home show. The Big Show versus the Shining Stars, New Day versus Rusev and Jinder Mahal, just filler, and just, it was boring. I mean, Titus O'Neil versus Sheamus, come on. Do you guys in the live chat think with the right writing, I think Raw could be equally as good as SmackDown. I would love for both shows to be great. I don't want to pick one or the, I want to like both. But when there's this disparage, you know, in quality, that's why we prefer SmackDown over Raw. Just the better writing, you know, SmackDown feels like a wrestling show. Raw feels like, honestly, a parody of a wrestling show at this point. I mean, it's just, I don't get it. And until things change, that's how it's just going to be. Number 2, what are some of your different interests besides wrestling, such as movies, TV shows, video games, etc.? Thank you for asking me that question. Movies, I'm a huge fan of Bond, James Bond. One of my favorite film series. I also love the Jurassic Park film series, Back to the Future. It's another great trilogy. Toy Story. I love Disney animated films. So those are just some of my favorite films. My favorite movie is, in fact, The Dark Knight. That movie was amazing. TV shows, Walking Dead. You guys can see it right there, right? Walking Dead. You don't mess with Negan because Negan is the law. So yeah, Walking Dead. A couple of them, my favorite show, Workaholics. That's a good show. I like Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge, South Park, Mr. Robot. That's another really good TV show. So those are just some of my favorite shows on TV. Video games. You guys see behind me. Nintendo. Huge fan of Super Mario, Metroid, Zelda, Pikmin, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart. Nintendo is where it's at. Also, you know, got a PlayStation 4, Uncharted, Destiny, NHL 17. Just a bunch of great games out there. So, yeah, those are just some of my favorite video games that I like to play. And finally, he asks, here are a list of wrestlers that I've come up with, and you tell me if you think they will get into the WWE Hall of Fame one day. Mark Henry. Yes, I do. Ken Shamrock. Yes. D'Lo Brown. No. Jazz. Yeah. Molly Holly. Yeah. Daniel Bryan, yeah. Vader, yeah, he definitely needs to go in. Sable, yes. New Age Outlaws, yes. CM Punk, yes. Marty Jannetty, no. I don't know. R-Truth, no. Goldust, yes. Owen Hart, hell yeah. Brian Pillman, yes. Yes, I do. So thank you for the questions, NC. We got a couple more here from Gene Demand 94. Gene, thank you for the questions. Oh, is this a great question? Because you know what game's tonight. Penguins versus Blackhawks. It's going to be great. If the Blackhawks play against the Penguins for the Stanley Cup final, which team do I root for? Well, the Penguins versus the Blackhawks. My dream Stanley Cup final. The past 2 reigning, defending, undisputed Stanley Cup champions of the world. Who do you guys think I'm going to root for? I love both teams. I do. Blackhawks are my favorite team in the West. Pens are my favorite team all around. I got to go with my Pens. But can you imagine the Pens versus the Hawks in the Stanley Cup final? Because I can. And you know the one word that I could use to describe that Stanley Cup final? Here it comes. Glorious! Good stuff. What advice would you give to an inspiring YouTuber or on the up and coming? Meaning, what's the most important thing they should know while trying to grow their channel? Just be yourself. Be real. Don't be afraid to take chances. Come up with unique, original content. Ignore the haters. Love those that support you, and you will succeed here on YouTube. That's all you got to be. Just be yourself. Look into that camera. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. Also be respectful and respect others' opinions, but just create an environment, a community where we can all love each other and respect each other's opinions, and that's what it should really be all about, coming together, talking with each other, and, you know, just being cool with each other. That's the advice I can give. What is the one thing that got you hooked in wrestling? Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair, WrestleMania 24. That match still gets to me. It really, really does. Great, great match. One of my favorites in WrestleMania history. Thank you for the questions, Gene. Finally, when with wrestling with realities, 3 questions. Number 1, what wrestler needs a repackaging in WWE? That's a good question. A repackaging. Looking around on that roster. One in particular. Reigns, yeah. Got to go with Roman Reigns. I mean, it's just not working. I mean, I could be here all day. Turn him heel. Turn him heel. Turn him heel. Turn him heel. That's all I can say. Number 2, should TNA do a complete rebuild and release wrestlers that are 35 and over and use that money to sign younger talent that are 25 or younger? Sure. You guys tell me. If you guys watch TNA, let me know. I just... just do something different. Don't be WWE light. I haven't watched TNA in over... It's been 4 years now. So, yeah, they need to do something different. So, sure, why not? Finally, should wrestlers like Cesaro, Jack Swagger, etc. go down to NXT and rebuild their characters? You could do that. Cesaro, I'd say no. I just feel if you give him an opportunity, let him run with the ball, see how far he goes. I mean, but with other guys, you could do that. I mean, they were kind of doing that with Titus O'Neil. They also sent, who else did they send out to NXT? It was Curtis Axel, I believe. You could. I mean, it wouldn't hurt. But I wouldn't say Cesaro. I just feel he needs to be, just give him an opportunity and see how far he can run with it. But good questions. Thank you for asking them. Before we go off the air here, guys watching in the live chat, well, here's a question here from Ultra Shadow. What do you think of this idea? The women being on one show and tag teams being on the other. I always preferred that. I know it's a brand split and whatnot, but the tag team division is perfect evidence. If you had a single unified tag team on one show, say for instance SmackDown, you could have multiple feuds, at least 2 to 3 feuds going on. And I feel if you had all those women on Raw and they were properly booked, you just combine them all on Raw and that would be just a stacked women's division. I feel SmackDown is stacked, but Raw is hurting when it comes to the women. And the tag team division scene is a complete joke on both shows. So yeah, I would like to see that, but I don't see it happening. If Lesnar wins the Universal title from Goldberg and he fights Reigns for the title at SummerSlam in a WrestleMania 31 rematch, would you enjoy that? No. I would rather see Lesnar versus Strowman because I feel you could build him up to the point for a SummerSlam showdown. And I'd rather see Lesnar versus Joe before I'd want to see a Lesnar versus Reigns showdown. Hell, I'd love to see Lesnar versus Cesaro or Styles before I don't know. Reigns, to me, good wrestler. I think he's great talent. I just think it's his booking. The booking, to me, is what has hurt. And it's a disservice to him. He should have been booked 10 times better than the way that they've booked him. So, I just wouldn't want to see that match. They had a great match at WrestleMania 31, don't get me wrong, but not the way Reigns is being booked right now. If he changes character, I'd be more interested in seeing that match. Heel versus heel match, I still think Brock, you could go in Brock as a babyface versus Reigns as a heel. All right, now that would be something I'd like to see. That would be different. That would be interesting. So thank you for that question. Any other questions, guys, before we go off the air here? So leave the forum open for a little bit. This is always fun. I enjoy doing these Q&As. Oh, here's a good one. Buy or sell, WWE or NHL? Sorry, WWE. I'm going to have to sell on you. I love wrestling, I do, but hockey, to me, is the best. And, I can't live without hockey. It'd be tough living it without both, but if I had to pick one, I got to go with the NHL. Can't go against my Pittsburgh Penguins. Thoughts on Ken Shamrock? Would you have loved if he returned for one last run? Sure. I was watching the stuff on the network. Obviously, I wasn't a fan back in 98, 97 when Ken Shamrock did his stuff. But I liked his work. I liked his feud with The Rock back in the day when he was working with the corporation. I thought Ken Shamrock was actually fairly well over in the 98 in that great time period for the WWF. Just a really, legit talent back then. He was from the UFC going into the WWE. And he certainly was one of the bigger stars, of the Attitude Era. Obviously not on the level of Rock and Austin, Triple H, Mankind, Undertaker, Kane. But he was fairly over. And I always liked him. I always thought he just has this intensity. I enjoyed his feud with Owen Hart. Remember the Lions Den match at SummerSlam? That was really good stuff. God rest your soul, Owen. We still missed you. But yeah, that feud with Owen Hart was good stuff. But yeah, at this point, he's probably too old to return. But could you imagine in his prime, Ken Shamrock versus Brock Lesnar? Woo! Would that be a good feud? I would love to have seen that. Thoughts on the Brood? I love the Brood. The entrance to the mystique, to the spitting of the blood, to just the bloodbaths. The Brood were awesome. Edge, Gangrel, Christian. What a great way to introduce Edge and Christian, who obviously went on to bigger and better things. But I love the Brood. Could you imagine the Brood versus the Wyatts? At that feud in the Attitude Era would be pure chaos and carnage. So that was a very good question, guys. Any more questions to those of you watching in the live chat before we go off the air here for this Q&A video number 4 follow-up? I'm just going to give you guys a couple more seconds, minutes. Throw whatever you got at me because I will answer any and all questions. You think the Wyatts in the Attitude Era would be much more awesome than now? Yeah, I think they would be more consistently booked. They wouldn't have been split up, and obviously they wouldn't have been limited, like you said, by the PG rating. They could go much, much farther than what they did. Although I really like what they did with the Wyatts on SmackDown this week. We would see more stuff like that because I really thought that was pushing the limits with Orton burning down the Wyatt family compound. So, good question. Good question. All right, guys. I'm going to close out this video Q&A. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning into the live chat. Thank you for asking those questions. Hope to do more of these video Q&As on this channel. So it was great to have you guys participate. Appreciate everybody that asked your questions. And that is it for this live Q&A answer session. Like I said, I'll be doing more of these on the channel in the months to come. So that is it for my video. Be sure to tune in, hopefully maybe tomorrow or Friday. I will be doing my Fastlane card predictions and preview video. Going to be breaking down the Fastlane card. Of course, I will be back up here immediately following Fastlane on Sunday, March 5th. Be going live for my review of Fastlane with special guest, the Club of the Man 1993. Will be breaking down Fastlane. So hopefully it is a good show. We'll see where they go with that as the road to WrestleMania continues. So that is it, guys. Thank you for tuning into this live Q&A video. I will see you guys in my next video. Until then, guys, take care.